It didn't say record.
Recording in progress.
There we go. And that one is recording. Okay. All right. So today we will use a couple of balls if you have them. You can, if you've got this kind, the yoga tune-up balls are similar. You can put them in their little mesh bag, but if you don't have those, you could use a couple tennis balls and a sock. And if you don't have that, you could use just one kind of ball and make it work too, okay? Or you could just skip that section. And we're going to use a block, or you could use anything hard that's raised, like a couple of books or something would work. And a blanket and a chair. And we're going to start with doing a little bit of neck release. So let's begin using the balls in their tote or sock and your block or something else that lifts your head off the floor. And where we'll place them first is on the right below the occipital ridge. So if you feel the back of your skull, and everybody's head is shaped differently, of course, but you might feel like a little bump, bony bump, the back of the skull there. And then below that, there's like a little valley of places. And the balls are gonna go underneath so that, and then on top of the block, so that when I come down and put them back there, you can see that my head is slightly slanted downward, sloping. My forehead is higher than my chin. If you find that you're up here, then you probably need to move the balls higher up on the head or just arrange them. You might have to hold them with your hands. And then take a sigh. So for some people, this will feel great. And for others, it might feel super intense. There's a lot of little muscles. I don't know exactly how many. Next time I'll look that up first, that are in this area. Okay, so, and they get really tense. If it's intolerable for you, come out of it. And you can instead use your hand to massage around that area. You could sit up and do that. But if it feels okay, can stay there and start to notice your toes on the floor. Notice how you want your arms and your legs. And perhaps take a sigh. And when you do that, when you sigh out your mouth, notice how that feels in your body. And notice how that feels in your nervous system, meaning, is it have a calming effect or not? What is the state of your nervous system right now? Do you feel tired? Do you feel foggy? Do you feel activated or amped up or anything else? And now, very slowly, you could experiment with some micro movements of nodding the head. And as you do that, could you relax your jaw? Could you soften around your eyes? And then you could pause whenever you're ready to. Take an inhale, perhaps really wide. And then an exhale, blowing out through pursed lips. Good. And now little micro movements by slightly taking your weight to the right. The weight of your skull. So it's like you're turning your head side to side, but go slowly so you can explore how it feels. Like for me, I feel that one side is a lot tighter and sensitive than the other side. It might be true for you or it might not. And keep softening through your jaw and your eyes. Good. And then whenever you're ready, you can always do that for longer if you want. Can take the balls away and you can let your head rest on the surface that you're using and just pause for a moment. Get a sense for how your face feels, your jaw, your throat, your neck. Good. Now, in this next part, we're going to use our bagged balls again, okay? And we're going to place them behind the curve of our neck. So I'm going to give you some instruction. For me, I don't want the block there. It's way too high. I'm going to use a blanket though. So I put the blanket there instead of the block. Now this height and thickness of the blanket is going to depend on how it feels in your own body, your own neck, and how much pressure you like, okay? So now the balls are gonna go in the curve of the neck. So if you look at me, if you'd like to, I've got it now way down on the neck, and one ball is on one side of my spine and my vertebrae, and the other ball is on the other side, right? So on the curve of the neck. And then I put that on the blanket. Now, it may take a minute to adjust. What you want to feel is just enough pressure for you today. Like for me, I want a little more pressure. So in order to get that, I'm going to need to make my blanket thicker or take a second blanket and stack it underneath. I think that's what I'm going to do. But if you're like, wow, that is intense, then you may need to move blankets away. Okay, it really depends on what the curve of your neck is like, what the shape is like, as well as how much pressure you prefer. Okay, yeah, for me that's better. Okay, so same thing at first. You're just going to settle into it and try to breathe calmly, okay? Softly, consciously. Could breathe in wide and breathe out long. Good. And then from here, let's do very small nods. So chin lifts up, chin goes down a little bit. It's just a small movement. You may find that you need to adjust the placement of the therapy balls. They might start to move in an area that you don't like, or for me, they're moving into an area that I do like as I do this. Right, so you can always adjust. Again, softening through the jaw and the eyes. Okay. You can come back to the center and pause whenever you're ready. Inhaling and exhaling, trying to soften around your shoulders. Okay, now very gently, I'm going to do this side to side again. And as I go to one side, I'm I'm coming all the way onto one ball, and the other side is not touching me anymore. But you might not be turning that much. It's up to you. What I like to do is to find a spot. I might go to one side and then I nod over there while I'm on that side. I found a really interesting spot that is not usually tight for me, but it sure is today on the left. Right? So you're exploring and being curious. And if it becomes too intense, like that's almost too intense for me, then I back out of it so that I can keep a smooth, calm breath. You might even rest your hands on your belly to feel perhaps the belly rising with the inhale and falling back with your exhale. Good. Okay. Now, I'm going to take the balls away and rest the head and notice. We're just going to do one more place, okay? Now, where this place is going to be about at your C7 vertebrae. So that's the very last vertebrae of the cervical spine, right? And it is kind of the big one that sticks out at the top of your back. And I'm going to keep the balls in their tote and put it on either side of that, okay? Now for this one, I'm going to take away my blankets. You don't have to, but it might work better so that my head's on the floor, but you can experiment. And I'm gonna put it there. Actually, oh, that's fine. And you might, if you have long hair, you might have to get it out of the way. Now for this, again, it's going to be to tolerance. So I want to say right away, if you've already found that you're really sensitive to this, you may need to come to a wall instead. And I would do the same thing against the wall. I would put the balls there. I'm going to bend my knees a lot so I'm not out of the screen. But do you see what I'm doing here? So I've got the balls on that spot and I'm using my legs to move up and down and give a little massage around this area. For me, this area is very tight. I've been having a lot of neck tightness lately. So I'd get my hair out of the way and just give myself a little massage, bending and straightening the legs. On the floor, I do the same thing. The wall is for less pressure. So you see what works in your own body, okay? On the floor, I do the same thing. I put it in that spot, but in order to move them, I've got to lift my hips off the floor a little bit, like a bridge pose. And I push into the feet, just like I was showing on the wall. And massage. And we're not going to do this one very long. We're just trying to soften that area up a little bit. Just find out what's going on there. And I've got my hips on the floor and I'm kind of going side to side. I guess not kind of, I am. I'm just rocking a bit. And when you are ready to be done with that, let's take the balls away, set them to the side, come onto the floor with knees bent. You can use some head and neck support with your blanket if you'd like, and pause. Moving the shoulder blades down your back, away from your head. My arms are spread out a little bit like a capital A, so they're coming down on a diagonal. Inhaling, let's inhale for a count of 3 or 4 through your nose. And then let's exhale out the mouth through pursed lips for as long as you can make happen without any strain or stress, and repeat. And you might feel, mine feels a little bit triggered, like I got in there and it was so tight that it feels a little hot, right? So just kind of noticing what that's like, noticing if you did too much in your own body. All right, let's windshield wiper. Knees going to left and then right as you roll over the feet. Your feet are not touching. In fact, they're pretty wide. Now, as you let the knees go side to side, could you turn your head to look in the direction of the knees or to the same side as the knees are falling, and notice how that feels? And then what would it be like for you to look in the opposite direction, or your head goes the opposite way from the knees? Notice how that feels. Good. All right, now we're going to take those knees down to the side that you can face me and see me. Okay, and I'm going to need space over my head and around on either side. My knees are just going to stack, but I need enough head and neck support so that being on my side doesn't hurt my shoulder. Okay, so just, you can add more pillows here if needed. My bottom arm, I'm just going to move my shoulders so they're stacked. My bottom arm stretches out on the floor. My top arm comes on top of that with both arms straight, like a big alligator mouth here, okay? We're going to do kind of an around the world or a half sun or a rainbow. So palms are stacked, knees are stacked, hips are stacked. Going to inhale and rock that arm or slide that arm forward on the floor, so the palms touching or the fingers. And then start sweeping the fingers up along the ear or the arm along the ear, and then come back. Good, and just keep breathing. So notice when your fingers have to leave the floor, if they do at all. Like mine are not leaving the floor, but yours might be floating up here. Just noticing that, okay? Good. Noticing how the texture of the floor feels. For me, I'm thinking, gosh, I probably need to vacuum, right? So, just noticing all the things that go through your head. And now from here, I'm going to keep going. Okay, I'm going to go really slowly. Just keep breathing. And notice as you keep going, the palm will turn up. And then your head will start to roll back. So your nose faces the ceiling. And the palm is up as you bring the arm out to the opposite side, straight out from the shoulder. And now I'm going to retrace that same path all the way around the head and back, and repeat. So big, open and up, and let the head roll. And back. So you're not trying to keep the head facing the side. You're letting it naturally start to face the ceiling or maybe even the opposite side. And now let's notice what's happening with the hips. I notice that my top hip wants to roll back as I open. Let's experiment with keeping those knees stacked and not letting that top hip roll, which means that my arm now doesn't touch the floor as easily. It floats higher off when I get out to the side. Good. I'm also feeling I've got some tight pec muscles today, and I'm feeling those stretch as I reach that arm out. Good. One more. Good. And then when you come back around this time, let's roll onto the back and notice. All right, then let's flip around to the other side, or you can just turn over. Get your head and neck support. Shoulders stack, arms stack, knees stack, hip stack. And first we're just going to slide that arm forward and back to the start. And slide it forward and back to the start. Oops, you still need space overhead. I realized I went too close to the wall, so I'm just going to move away. Good, and then next time you slide forward, now we'll just do that little bit of a quarter circle. So just coming up along the ear and then back, noticing how that feels on the shoulder. Up along the ear and back. This time continuing that arc, so that when you come up along the ear, go very slowly, keep breathing. Start to notice when the head wants to face the ceiling and the palm wants to turn up. And you go all the way out to the side and then back around. And repeat. Softening through your jaw. Now noticing that top hip, if it's rolling back, and the knee, trying to keep those stable. Noticing the difference. All right, and then when you come back around, this time coming onto your back, take a breath in and out. Notice head. We're going to inhale, stretch the right arm up toward up toward the ceiling, and then exhale. We're going to bend the right knee, figure 4, crossing the right ankle over the left thigh. Okay, and pause. Now using your right hand, just going to gently press the inner thigh and leg away a little bit. So your hips will tilt slightly to the right, most likely. Breathing in and breathing out. Good. And now let's release the pressing and just spread the arms out to a T and start to let the hips rock side to side. So you're rocking over that bottom foot. I'm still in my figure 4. You can go almost to the floor, or you can make it small, up to you. Softening through your jaw. So now we're keeping the upper body stable and we're moving the lower body. Okay. Before we were trying to keep the lower body stable and twisting in the upper body. And coming back to center. Let's uncross the ankle or leg and stretch it up and just flex and point the ankle a few times. Feel your bottom foot grounded. Now let's make circles with that upper ankle. And then circle the opposite way. Good. Now we'll bend the knee, foot to the floor. Inhale, left leg goes up. Exhale, cross the left ankle. Taking left hand, let's gently press that left inner thigh away. It's like we're trying to create a little space in this crease area. You also might feel a stretch too. Good, and then letting go, we'll make a T with the arms and start rocking the hips side to side any amount. Good, and then let's come back to the center. Uncross the ankle, taking the leg up. And then as you're ready, let's inhale, flex and point. Exhale one, inhale the other. Good, and then circle a few times in one direction, and then a few times in the other direction. And now bending the knees, feet and knees parallel. Let's take your hands, and your feet are on the floor, and I'm taking the heels of my hands closer to the crease of my hips, and the fingers pressing up or pointing up my legs. And I'm just going to inhale and press the heels of my hands into my legs. And exhale, release, and then again. Good. Now let's grab your block. If you don't have a block, you can use a rolled up blanket or a foam roller, anything with height that's firm. Excuse me. Okay. Anything big from behind the head you can take away. And then come into a supported bridge pose. So we're going to be putting the block, if you're using a block, on the lowest level for most people. Okay, so we're going to inhale, lift the hips off the floor, and slide the block underneath your sacrum or underneath your pelvis and hips. You can rest your hands. If your elbows are on the floor, could your hands just rest on the belly somewhere? Of course, make sure this isn't causing any pain in your low back. If you've got some issues going on, you might need to just be on the floor. Okay. Let's inhale for a couple of counts, maybe to 3 or 4. Long exhale out mouth or nose. And now slowly, let's slide the right leg to straight on the floor, if that feels all right. And same thing, we'll inhale wide, and exhale long. Now, if this doesn't feel good to you to do, you might need to make your prop lower, like roll up a blanket instead, or put a pillow under there. If that still doesn't work, you could bend the knees again, okay? If you've got one leg straight, let's inhale. Feel like you're breathing all the way down into the front of that hip. You can even put your hand there. Your belly might expand down there when you inhale. Good. And then let's bend the right knee and just rock a little bit, almost like you're going to windshield wiper. You're kind of massaging the area around the sacrum and pelvis a little bit on the block. And if you need to adjust where the block is, you can too. I'm going to move mine further toward my tail. Feels a little better. And now sliding the left leg out towards straight. Yeah, that's better for me. And same thing here. Check in. If the position doesn't work for you, bend both knees or adjust the height. Feel as you inhale, imagine you're breathing all the way into the front of this left hip. And long exhale. Good. Now let's bend the knee and do that rocking again. Your sacrum. Okay, now let's draw the left knee in toward the belly. And if you can hold it with your hands, do. So I've got my hands either above or below the knee, whatever feels better. Now I'm going to inhale and take the right leg up toward the ceiling. Yeah, so I'm balancing on this block. If you feel like you need to adjust where the block is, just bring the feet down and do so. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to exhale and start to very slowly lower the right heel toward the floor, keeping the leg straight. When the leg has to bend, stop lowering. And now let's point the ankle and bring the leg back up. And then reach through the heel and exhale, start to lower. You might get all the way to the floor. It might need to bend before then. In that case, keep it straight and hover it. And repeat a couple more times. Inhale, coming up. And exhale, lowering down. That right leg is coming all the way up and somewhere down. Now, if it feels all right to you, can let that right leg this time stay in the down position. Again, either hovering off the floor, really trying to keep the leg straight, and holding the left knee with one or both hands, whatever feels better. You can even move the left knee to a different angle if you want. Like you could take it in the left hand and take it more out to the side. Couple more breaths. Maybe a sigh. Good. And now slowly, let's bring the leg back up toward the ceiling and then bend the right knee. Just pause. You could put a hand on both knees or do whatever you want with the arms. Good. And now we'll hold just the right knee and inhale, stretch the left leg up. As you exhale, reaching through the heel, starting to lower it part way or all the way, just trying to keep it straight, noticing how this side might feel different than the first side. Inhale, point as you lift. And I don't know about for you, but for me, it's very different on this side. So I'm just noticing how it's different. Now the next time you go straight or down, let's stay there and breathe. Kind of reach through the heel, just soften through your shoulders and your jaw. You can take any angle with that right knee. Good, and then let's bring that leg back up toward the ceiling. Let's bend both knees again. Now, if it feels all right, you can let go with your hands. So the way I've got my block situated is such that the only part of the block that my body is touching is the edge of the block that's closest to my head. And because of this, it's tilting my knees toward my chest with just gravity. I'm not having to make them come in, right? So if your block is too high on your back, that won't happen. So you have to kind of just get it in the right spot and breathe. It's like an upside down child's pose. And now when you're ready, slowly bringing one foot to the floor, knees bent, and the other foot to the floor. And inhale to lift up off your block and slide it out of the way. Exhale, coming back down. Pause and notice. And then you can bring your knees in towards your belly now. I'm going to wrap my arms around the outer knees. So I've got a wide knees to chest. So I've got my hands behind my knees. And I'm just going to rock a little bit side to side with my knees wide and my hands behind the knees. And now I can make circles. Now I'm going to take my hands to the tops of my knees and bring the knees closer and make circles. And then circle the other way. Good. Now you could curl up into a little ball if you want to try that. Tucking your nose up towards your knees. Good. And now you could rock yourself up, or you could put your feet back down and roll to your side to come up. When you come up, let's have a seat. I know we're staying close to the floor today. We will come up for a little bit, but we're going to do just a lot of this kind of hip and neck releasing stuff on the floor. I'm going to do soles of feet together, knees open. Now, you may need a lot of variations for this. One variation is to just sit on the floor, if you can sit there without pain, and just like this, right? Back in neutral, holding my ankles. Another variation, if that's difficult, if you find that you're rounding to do this and your knees are up high, you could sit up on a blanket. You could even sit up on a block, and that can really help. Okay. Hands could be behind the back for support, or you could sit your back against the wall, which can feel really nice. Okay. You could also put pillows or blocks beneath the knees. Now, as soon as I do this, even though I'm pretty flexible, right, I can, through my hips, I don't have an issue doing this, but putting this block beneath the knees or pillow allows my body to relax. So I instantly felt my muscles kind of soften into it. So they can be really helpful to just add some props. Even if you don't think you need it, you could experiment. And if you've got yourself against a surface behind you, you can feel that and feel the support there too. The support below your hips and feet. And take a couple of breaths here. Let's do 2 more breaths here. Okay. And then if you're against the wall, scooting away. Everyone bringing your knees in, and we'll come down to the floor if you're sitting up on anything. Okay. I'm going to take one leg forward and one leg back. Okay, so I'm sitting on that front hip. If you can't do this, you're going to be in more of a windshield wipers instead, okay? Otherwise, you've got one leg forward, one leg back, okay? And we're going to put your hands on either side of the front thigh, just on the floor. And I'm just doing a little turn. I'm not doing a big twist like we do sometimes. It's just a little rotation to bring that front hip forward a little, that back hip forward a little bit, and then sitting it back down, bringing it forward. So you could put your hand on your back hip to feel that happening. You're moving your pelvis, right? Your pelvis is rotating forward and back. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it forward, and maybe you can lift the back foot. So now I'm internally rotating this back leg, this hip. You may not be able to get that foot off the floor without doing this, right? So if you can't get your foot off the floor like this, see that moving? Then you try leaning forward a little bit more and notice it might work then. Okay, and then notice if you can back up and do it more. This is the hip internal rotators. Trying to activate those. Okay, and then come down. I started to get a little cramp in there. You might feel it really working. And then we're going to switch sides. So now the other leg in front, other leg back. Okay. Can take your back hand to your hip and just start to bring that hip forward and sit it back down, making sure, of course, there's no pain, sharp or dull going on that's increasing when you do this, right? So making it smaller if needed. And I'm not twisting my torso around. It's really just through the pelvis. You'll see my belly button is really just moving a very minimal amount, and my head's not moving. My upper back's not really moving except to follow the pelvis. A few more. Good. And then bringing it forward and trying to lift the back foot off the floor. Breathe, right? It may not lift. Okay, now if you're finding that it's really not lifting, what happens if you lean a little further forward and just see if you can get it to lift a little more. Keep breathing. Good. And then bring it down. Going to sit back with our legs in front of us, knees bent. If your wrists bother you, you might need to do this seated in a chair with your feet on the floor and your hands holding the edges of the seat. You could also make fists with your hands. Here, I'm going to put my hands flat because now that I'm sitting at a computer more often, my wrists are getting weak. So I really need to work them a lot, right? I'm trying to make sure I do this stuff every day. So I've got my hands flat, my fingers are pointed out to the side. And I inhale and see if I can lift my hips off the floor any amount. They might go all the way up or just part way. And then exhale back down slowly and just try that a few times, okay? Again, if you've got a wrist injury though, or some nerve problem with the wrists or shoulders, you may need to do this in the chair. It'll be a lot less weight, or you might just make a fist. Couple more if you can. Squeezing your butt muscles on the way up. Good. Next time you come down, let's swing the legs behind us and coming into either puppy dog pose with hips high, arms reaching forward like this, or you could come into downward facing dog pose with knees off the floor. Taking a couple of breaths. And then slowly coming onto your feet, and you can either roll yourself up with bent knees, or you can reach your chest forward and use your legs to come up. When you get all the way up to standing, let's inhale, reach the arms up. Hi, Terry. And exhale, arms out to the sides and down. Okay, let's bring the palms together. Good. And then let's interlace the fingers with the palms together. Okay. And now we're going to keep the elbows down and make like a figure eight on its side, or an infinity sign with the wrists. And then go the opposite way. Good. And then letting go with the hands, just move your fingers all around. Breathe. And then let's inhale, squeeze the shoulders up. And exhale, let them drop. Inhale up. Exhale, drop. And then inhale, roll up. Exhale down the back. And again. Good. Now, I'm going to take one arm out to the side, and I'm going to internally rotate the arm and externally rotate. And you'll see I'm letting my forearm and my hand follow. Okay? Going in, and I'm really stretching through the fingers, and I'm going to change that in a second to feel more, all the way from my neck to my fingers. Okay, so first I'm just trying to get this motion. In and out. Keep breathing. In and out. Okay, now when I go in, this one, see what I'm going to do with my wrist? I'm going to flex the wrist goes down, the fingers go up like a little bird beak. And then when I go out, like this, I'm going to turn the palm out and extend the wrist, spreading the fingers wide. So in, and I'm just letting my breath flow. Okay, now to add in this neck to this, I'm going to be very gentle and exploratory. I'm going to start to turn my head away from that arm. And I might move the chin around. Just finding different areas. You can offer support from the other hand if needed. So you're going away from the arm that you're moving. Your head is leaning away from the arm that you're moving. Good. All right. Well, let's come back to center and just kind of shake that out. Right. Now we'll start with, and you can do this standing. I'm just getting on my knees so you can see me better. I'm going to start with just the arm. Internal, external. Internal, external. Breathing. Now I'm just starting to notice the hands stretching. And there's no right way to do this. I'm really just offering you some ideas. You might find something else that feels best for you. Okay. And you can notice what happens when you turn it internal if you also flex the wrist. So wrist going down, fingers going up. And then as you externally rotate and you extend the wrist, fingers going down, spreading wide, palm out, and repeat. Now, if you want to, you can tilt the head in any angle away from it. Move the chin. Soften the jaw. Good. And then gently shake it out, bringing the head back to center. Let's inhale, roll the shoulders up. Exhale down the back. And then inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms out and down. And again. Okay, and then getting your chair in front of you, chair seat in front of you. You're going to inhale, arms up, and exhale and fold. Now, if a forward fold doesn't work in your body today, you got pain, you can try sitting in the chair, and perhaps forward folding in the chair would feel okay. You're just going to test it out, okay? You can go all the way down too. Up here, you can bend the knees any amount. You can let the hands rest on the chair. You can let the spine fold forward, resting the head or the arms on the chair. Knees could be bent or straight. Find something that feels interesting to you, where you're getting some sort of feedback, maybe a stretch in the back of the legs or a release in the back. Or maybe it just feels relaxing. Can nod the head, yes. You can turn the head side to side, no. Good. And then inhale to stretch your chest forward. You can take hands to the seat of the chair if you want. And exhale, come on down to the floor. Now we're going to use both blocks here. If you don't have blocks, you're going to use 2 blankets or pillows. I'll show it with both. We're going to do our chest opener. Many of you have done it with me before. So one block, if you're using blocks, is going to go perpendicular to the spine, so across the spine. And it could be on this medium height of the block, or it could be on the low height, medium or low, okay? And then the upper block is going to go behind the head. Could go on the high height or the medium, depending on where you got the other one, all right? And so what I would do is bend the knees. And where it's going to go is about where, if you were to be wearing a bra strap, it would be like where a bra strap is. It's across the shoulder blades. Now, this is a pretty big stretch for me too right now. Feels okay, but I might like it lower. So I would lower the blocks. Could always keep the upper one high. And what I often find with people is oh yeah, that's way better. So I often find people either have this block that's across my shoulder blades, they either put it way down here, which I mean is actually, it feels okay to me, but often that's right on your kidneys and it's just an arch in the back, a big arch in the back, might not feel good. Okay, so we're not going for that, we're going for upper back. And then I'll find people will put it way up high, like way up here, below the shoulders, and it's not really doing, that's all right. It's just not doing much, okay? It's not opening the chest. So you're finding that sweet spot. Another way to do it, and then I'll stop talking, is to use a rolled up blanket. So often the block is just, people don't like it, it's too hard or it's too much. So I'd roll or fold a blanket up and I would put that across my shoulder blades, and then I would use a second pillow or block below the head. The same thing, and this feels so nice to me usually. Oh yeah, almost always. And you'll notice the blanket is coming out underneath my armpits. See how it's here? My arms spread out, but they don't have to. They could be wherever they feel best. You want to feel that your neck can soften and relax in whatever way you're using. Okay? Neck soft, relax. Chest feeling like it's lifted a little higher than your shoulders. Shoulders falling back with gravity. Legs bent or straight. Softening your jaw if you can and your tongue. You could take a long exhale out your mouth. And then notice how you're feeling here. If this is very comfortable and you feel like you're starting to relax further and further, you could stay here. But if you feel like, oh, I'm feeling a little tight or tense, I'd rather be on the floor, then you would slowly bend the knees, you can tuck the chin or roll to your side to come off the props and then come back down. Might want head and neck support, finding a more restful pose. Okay. I might sigh, letting go of control of your breath. Practicing letting go to gravity as much as you can here. And thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time.